It's such an honor to be able to talk about Dr. Friedman today. His work has greatly influenced what I do. What I want to start with is about money. And that's what the consequence of the aging population of the United States is talking about. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that in 2009, about 12.9% of the U.S. population was over the age of 65. By 2030, that's expected to move up to 19%. The healthcare costs are going to move from 16% of our GDP to 25%. So unfortunately, in many ways, we might have, due to pension liabilities and all these problems, something that we would call fiscal Confucianism, where we privilege our elders over our children. And it's important that as we move forward, we understand how pensions are structured. But having less money for schools actually might not be the worst thing in the world. Because any bureaucratic theorist will tell you that times of austerity are times of reform. So in times where money has been flush, you can promise people pensions, you can pay them these huge amounts of money because you've got money and it's always going to be there. Well, I did a little investigative reporting before I showed up to talk about how much it cost to educate a student in the state of Connecticut. 3 weeks ago, the U.S. Census Bureau released a report that detailed the spending in every state in America. Fairfield Public Schools spent $179,927,000, and this was in 2010, to educate 10,110 students. Leads to $17,797 per student. Hartford spent $589 million to educate 21,216 students for a cost of $27,764 per student. Now, how many of you knew that? This is something that is unbelievably important. And you hear talk about budget cuts. Teachers are going to be unemployed and they're not going to be able to do this stuff. It is not true. We call it in political science the national park principle. So I live in Washington, D.C., and for the longest time, whenever there was a cut to the Parks Service, you know the first thing they did was?
Close Yellowstone.
Shut down the Washington Monument. Now, is that really the best way to cut the cost of this? Unfortunately, in many cases, the same thing happens when we talk about school systems. The first thing that always comes up is, oh, there are going to be budget cuts? Cutting teachers. Doesn't have to be that way. There are opportunities that austerity give us to rethink the way that we deliver education.